Still got to bring the updates, still got to bring the latest news as what's trending, as what's going around, as what's circulating as well. I want to gauge your thoughts, your feelings and opinions on everything else that's happening right now. And again, further developments over the last 12 hours or so in relation to the European Super League, and such contrasting stories coming out from multiple media outlets. There is a meeting that's going to be happening this morning, not at any location, primarily via Zoom, where 14 of the 20 Premier League clubs are going to come together and they're going to be discussing what they want to see happen. There are some rumours that at least 9 to 10 of the 14 want to vote the big six that are joining the Super League out of the Premier League as of the end of the season. There are other reports, though, that suggest the big six are very, very confident that although the other 14 teams are going to be furious and going to be angry with them, at the same very time, they know they need the big six. They know they need the big six to bring in the money that keeps all of their heads above water. Now, what's interesting about this as well is a report this morning from a couple of journalists across the media that there are two of the big six, and most of the rumours suggest that this could be Chelsea and Manchester City, that don't need the money that this is going to generate in the same way that Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs do. But there are reports that their cracks are beginning to appear within the hierarchy of those football clubs, and there is the potential for two of the big six to pull out of this deal and walk away. Now, what's becoming really clear is that contracts have been signed. A lot of people think, well, this is binding. Perez himself last night said, contracts are signed, it's binding, everybody's in. Kind of made it sound very unequivocal. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, that the Super League is going to go ahead. But Perez is leaving out some really key pieces of information which are important for fans to remember. As it stands right now, all of the big six still legally require the permission of the Premier League to join another tournament. The only way they can join the Super League without the Premier League's permission is to resign from it. They're not going to want to resign from that league and just play in this Super League by itself. There isn't going to be enough games. They're actually then going to, what they make through the Super League, they're going to lose a lot of that by pulling out of the Premier League in itself. What these Premier League clubs want is to be involved in both. So anybody right now that thinks this Super League is going to happen and it's cast iron, 110% is going to go ahead, at this moment in time, you're not right. And Perez, he's just sounding off. Last night talking about saving football, how 16 to 24-year-olds don't want to watch the game anymore. We know that on the football terrace. Terrace is an absolute nonsense in itself. This is all about the big clubs making themselves money. They're hiding. They are absolutely hiding behind PR garbage that this is to improve football, this is to save football, it's to make it more exciting for the fans. It isn't. What would be more exciting for the fans is it would be an open competition that is not a closed shop to a few rich elites. That's why we know that he is spinning a load of old nonsense. There's a few things he said which I thought were fair in relation to UEFA being more transparent with salaries and the wages of people and stuff along those lines. But the vast majority of what he said, for me, just felt like empty PR corporate words. It really, really did. In other news this morning, and then I want to take your comments on all the things we're speaking about. We'll do a bit of a roundup, then go straight to your live comments, because you are the most important element in this, the fans. We will continue to stream as regularly as we can about this, as well as bringing you live reactions to the games, transfer news that's going on as well, because the one thing that's very important to remember here is football has to continue at this time, because it is absolutely important to remember that at this moment in time, the Super League is not a guarantee to go ahead. The league positions that Man United, that Chelsea, that Leicester, that Tottenham finish in could be huge for next season. And it's why Jurgen Klopp has come out and put down any talk at this moment in time of him leaving or resigning or walking away, because he knows this may very well not happen. On the other side of things, Harry Maguire yesterday, whether this happened before or after Bruno Fernandes's Instagram post, we don't know. But he had a meeting on behalf of the entire squad yesterday with Ed Woodward to address this situation. The players were furious with the fact that they've not been consulted, that they had no idea this was coming. They're equally disheartened and disillusioned by the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was only told about this news about half an hour before kickoff. And they feel that Ollie was thrown under the bus because he then had to face the media all by himself. There's only a few questions about it after the game because the mainstream media wasn't overtly aware about the ins and outs and the intricacies of the Super League as we know it right about now. So that's Maguire that's spoken directly to Ed Woodward. Him and the players furious at the idea, at the lack of communication and at the way Ollie has been thrown under the bus. We saw last night Patrick Bamford slamming it. We saw James Milner coming out and saying he doesn't want it. Jurgen Klopp denouncing himself away from it. We need more of that today. The football fraternity needs more players, more managers, more supporters to stand up and be against the plans we've seen so far. And I think what I want to reiterate here from myself is my personal opinion is I'm not against reform. I'm not against new tournaments being created, but I don't want them to be a closed shop. I want more teams to have an opportunity to gain the riches and the prestige that comes with it. At the same time, we have to ensure that the domestic pyramids in England, Spain and Italy and across Europe are absolutely protected at all costs. It has to happen. We cannot create this huge, gargantuan, brilliant league here while everything else around it falls apart. These things are very, very important as far as I'm concerned. But let's round up what we've gone through so far today. But what I do need from you right now is for you to smash the like button as it stands right now. Hit that like button for us on the Football Terrace. And let's go through some of the things we've gone through in the opening 6-7 minutes of this. So, reports this morning that 2 of the big 6 in the Premier League are beginning to feel the pressure and maybe cracks are beginning to appear and there is the possibility that they may pull out. There are mooted reports that is Chelsea and that is Manchester City. Both those clubs have been heavily criticised of having no backbone in the last 24 to 48 hours because why do you need the money? You're owned by 2 of the wealthiest men on planet Earth, but also your club invests, you've got no financial issues. At the same time, there's a meeting going on this morning. And this is where it's going to be really interesting. This meeting, or the result of this meeting, is going to be very, very telling indeed. Because 9 to 10 of the 14 Premier League teams, of course, not joining the Super League, are said to want to vote the Big 6 out of the Premier League. So they will no longer be part of the English Premier League next season. The Big 6, however, who are not invited to this meeting, they have suggested that they don't think the 14 other clubs would have the bottle to vote them out because they need them so desperately. That is what they have said. That is what they think and feel. I'm going to go to your live comments now. I want to know what you're thinking and feeling. Get your super chats in as well to us this morning. Gabriel here says, good. I hope City and Chelsea pull out. The more teams that pull out, then surely they can't do it. Which is what's interesting, Gabriel. A lot of the same reports, when you read these reports in detail, feel that without Chelsea and Man City, the Super League can still go ahead and still flourish. And that's based on the fact that the other teams remaining are the biggest clubs in the world in terms of fan base. But probably barring Tottenham, and I don't mean that I don't mean that disrespectfully in any way, shape, or form. There's a comment here from one of our members, Jose Mourinho, says, without the Big 6, the Premier League is dead. And that's the power. That is the power that the Big 6 want to use. That's the angle that they are going into this with. They are simply coming out and stating, we're big, you're small, we're rich, you're poor, relatively speaking, and without us, the TV companies are going to pull away. What really stood out to me last night, though, I hadn't seen this report until I was laying in bed. I was just sort of doing some research, looking at what we're going to speak about today. And it's something I want Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher to address. Because Sky, along with Amazon Prime and Disney and a couple of other broadcasters, have already sat down with the organisers of the Super League to discuss TV rights. So my question to Gary Neville this morning, and I agree with a lot of the things that he said in the last couple of days, but my question to Gary Neville this morning and my question to Jamie Redknapp, if Sky were to win the broadcasting rights to the Super League, would you quit your job? And I'm asking that of YouTubers as well, because I was on a stream yesterday with Joel and Tapping Tobes, the Coppage Boys, Anita, and the question was, am I still going to watch? Somebody commented last night on my show and said, if the Super League approached you, Terry, and wanted you to work for them and stream, would you do it? And I sat there and thought to myself, I can't say no. I can't say I'm not going to cover this. I can't say I'm not going to do streams on this. I've seen some seriously big YouTubers say that they'd walk away. I guarantee they're going to retract that. I made that comment myself the other day, and by the end of that same very stream, I started questioning myself, saying, I know I'm angry and frustrated at the way this is looking, the way that this is being presented to us, but am I going to walk away? Am I going to stop covering Man United and Chelsea, City, Arsenal, if they go into the Super League? And the answer right now is I don't think I will. I need to be very open, and I need to be very honest about that as an individual. So I think there's an element here where I want to see reform, I want to see things change. I am prepared to wait for the dust to settle, but still my overt belief at my core is that this is a big power play. There will be a happy medium received. The whole thing's too quick. It's too unyielding. It's too unequivocal, matter of fact. Contracts are signed. It's binding. It can't end. We can't go back on things. And as we said at the top of this stream, all the clubs can pull out. Because if the Premier League don't give permission, the contracts they're not binding. And the contracts will have those clauses in. If Manchester United and if City and Spurs, etc., don't get permission from their league to join, legally, they're not allowed to join. So it can't go ahead. If UEFA come back with a counter offer and say, look, we'll give you a bit of extra money, we'll reform the tournament so you get X, you get Y, you get Z, these teams will just say, well, we haven't had permission from the Premier League, so we're going to stay where we are. UEFA will give their membership back within seconds. There's all these calls at the minute to punish these big six. They're not going to do that. That isn't going to happen. It's grandstanding as far as I'm concerned right now. Terry, they are not leaving the Premier League. I agree with you. I don't think they are going to leave the Premier League. There is a possibility it can happen, but I don't think it will. I don't think they're going to want that, and I don't think the Premier League is going to push for that either. Comment here from Joseph, one of our members, says a league without consequences and with an embarrassment of riches for its participants will kill the authenticity of football. I understand where you're coming from. People already feel like the authenticity of football has gone anyway, based on the Premier League's riches and the Champions League's riches compared to all other domestic leagues in England and the majority of leagues across Europe, for that matter. The money isn't an issue. It's the closed shop mentality, other people not being able to get into it. And we need to ensure that money is being pushed down the line. There's no doubt about that at all. Comment here from Mr. Meyer says, as part of the global fans and working class, the biggest thing everybody hates in the world is billionaire Yanks. The true global supporters will not support this. Listen, I think I would say 90% of football fans don't want this to happen. But they're all going to have different reasons as to why they don't want this to happen. Do you know what my biggest concern, outside of grassroots and the lower echelons of the pyramid falling apart, my biggest fears, based on what we've been shown so far, is that we're going to have so many dead rubber games, so many uncompetitive matches each season. If winning the league, it's just that, we all remain in the league. If only winning the league matters, there's only ever been a maximum of 3 teams ever challenging for a title in this country in my lifetime, which means there's going to be a lot of dead rubbers. There's going to be boring. There's going to be nothing to really play for. The FA Cup and the League Cup will be devalued even further because there'll be even less money in them. I don't even think that the Big Six will compete in the League Cup if the Super League goes ahead because it's so gargantuan. It's just something about this whole thing from a competitive angle that doesn't make sense to me. Even within the Super League itself, you're going to get 3 or 4 teams a season who are too far off the pace to really challenge for it. So it almost makes the games boring. Like, imagine you're Tottenham and you're second bottom in the Super League and 8th in the Premier League in November. That means for the rest of your season, you've got no games that matter. Take it away from morality and integrity. Look at it just as a competition. Does the competition make sense? That's the concern for me here. If we're going to create a new competition, We need the fairness. We need jeopardy. We need it to be open-ended. But at the same time, it needs to be compelling from a competitive point of view. These are the questions that I still have. Where am I? Right now, I am in Angel. I'm outside a theatre of some sort. I'm on my way for a meeting with Snack this morning. More planning going ahead. Terry, Klopp has been sacked. I very much doubt that Klopp has been sacked. Make sure you're all hitting that like button for me this morning, please. Right about now, get that done. There is a protest today as well at Stamford Bridge. I believe it's 5:30 that's going ahead. I know on Saturday, man like Saeed is part of a group organising a protest at Manchester United. So very, very much good luck to these protests. The Glazer protest is interesting. It shouldn't have taken this for Manchester United fans to wake up and realise who the biggest problem is here. There's a comment here that says no one pulled out. The issue is City and Chelsea weren't really interested but joined out of fear. Do you know what? I'm not buying that. Well, do you know what? Maybe I will. Hang on, let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase. Maybe there was a fear, but the fear was we might become irrelevant, so I'm going to join anyway. There is no moral high ground for any of the big six. Manchester United and Liverpool, of course, are going to get a lot of criticism because of the size and heritage of those football clubs. But for me, this just proves that, there's two things that are really... One thing that has massively stood out to me in this whole debate and this whole conversation... There's two things. I can't speak. There are two things that have stood out to me in this whole debate in the last few days. Man United and Liverpool are undoubtedly the biggest two clubs in England because everyone's looking at us as being that we should be the most embarrassed because of who and what we are. Secondly, people are worried about the lack of competitiveness within the game. So we've just proven an age-old debate, and winning has just beaten entertainment. Because if there are going to be an abundance of games each year that are non-competitive, you're playing for nothing, who cares? No matter how good the flicks and the tricks and the patterns and the play and the speed and the press looks, who cares about uncompetitive football matches? No one. Not a single person that watches football cares about the game if it isn't competitive. There's two things that have stood out to me massively in the last few hours. So the next time somebody says to you, I watch football for entertainment, they're lying to you. Because over 90% of people have said they are against the idea of the Super League because of a lack of competitiveness in multiple ways. This is just, Red Devils Down Under, thank you for joining up as a legendary member, says here, this is just a measuring comp between governing bodies and independent entities. Out the tape measure, put the tape measure away and come to a compromise. Yeah, there is a definite measuring here of pinasses. Danny King says, if the Super League guarantees more revenue, then it will turn the teams like Arsenal and Spurs, then in turn, teams like Arsenal and Spurs will have enough to compete eventually. No, I hear you on that. They may do. But there are still going to be teams at the bottom of this league. There are still going to be like the lower echelons of the Super League. Eventually they want to grow to 18 teams. Somebody's coming 18th. Somebody's coming 17th. Somebody's coming 16th. That's going to happen. And unless you're in your domestic league in a title race, then you've got nothing to play for. And that lack of competitiveness will lead to less people watching. That's a fact. We watch football because it's competitive. The reason why Chelsea and Liverpool fans in the last couple of days have said, I don't even want to watch our games that are coming up, is because they feel like there's nothing to play for. They don't care about how entertaining it's going to be anymore because there's nothing competitive about it. A lot of people are saying who have pulled out. Nobody has pulled out as of now. There are reports this morning that at least two, namely Chelsea and City, are feeling the pressure and maybe cracks are beginning to appear and they may look to pull out of this league. Someone here says, can someone freaking tell me who class... I don't know what that says there. I actually don't know what that word says. Terry is right. People watch football because it's competitive. We do. And of course, the entertainment factor is part of it. We want the football to be entertaining when we're watching it, but we go there to watch the team we love win, as a general rule. Someone said here, says competitiveness is entertainment in itself. No, you're right. That is absolutely right. Absolutely right. The relegation matches get more ratings than mid-table matches. Why? Because they mean something. They mean something now. They really, really do. They really, really do. Terry, where are you getting this information from? One of the journalists who shared this report this morning, well, early hours of this morning, was Oliver Holt. Do your research, go onto Twitter, go onto social media. You can find this information. You can find the stories. Go out there and get them read. There's a comment here from James Jarvis. It says, you can have entertaining football down to semi-pro leagues. It's competition that makes the top league special. Of course it does. That will and that drive to win. And then what keeps all the lesser teams motivated is the hope that one day they can get to that level. And this is the element that I just want to see twerked. Not because I want the tournament not to go ahead as such, but I want the tournament to be competitive. I want to be able to watch it and feel excited. Doesn't mean I won't cover my team. Doesn't mean I won't support my team. I've already said that. I shouldn't have said that the other day. That was just pure, raw emotion talking. And I think you're going to see a lot of the big YouTubers and the broadcasters slowly start to actually, maybe, I think, and how do I know that? Because I've done the same thing. All right, I'm not standing on the moral high ground here. I am no different. I am no better. I'm just saying maybe I've come to that realization a little bit quicker than others. We have another super chat in this morning that says, this is wrong. My pops went to Munich that year. He is the reason I supported United. He is turning over in the afterlife. I am disgusted in this news. And do you know what? You're absolutely within your right to feel disgusted and to feel upset and to feel frustrated with this news. There's no doubt. Harold here says the problem's more complex than X equals Y. Real Madrid want Haaland. Raiola demanded $1 million a week and 500k for PP. UEFA and FIFA are corrupt, etc. Minor leagues have no chance. You're right about a lot of that. I have no sympathy for UEFA and FIFA. I hate the moral stance they're trying to take. I hate how they're trying to use fans as a shield when they don't care about the fans. The broadcasters don't care about the fans. That for me is the God's honest truth, 110%, no doubt. They care not a bit. They care not a bit about these things. I don't believe for a second they do. So I stand by that wholeheartedly. In terms of the financial side of things, it's going to be interesting. There are other reports that Boris Johnson is going to look to step in and introduce laws to stop this going ahead as well. There's another report that the government may stop the Big Six from signing top players from abroad by not granting work permits. There are multiple things that can be done here legally. And remember, Britain now, and the English game, has more chance of these laws being passed. Why? Because we don't answer to anybody else anymore. Due to Brexit, whether you agree with or disagree with Brexit is irrelevant. This country can make its own laws now. It has its own sovereignty. If the government is as against this as they say, and they can't see that financially it's going to benefit local businesses in the lower ends of the pyramid, they could quite legitimately ban Man United, Chelsea, etc. from signing any more international players or limiting them, which it's again kind of curtails what they're trying to achieve in the first place. We've got another super chat here that I want to delve into that says, where does Man United stand as of now? As of now, and what we've been told is Man United have pulled themselves out as of the end of the season from UEFA. They have requested to the Premier League that they want to join the Super League, and they have signed a binding agreement for 23 years to enter the new Super League. However, if the Premier League doesn't give them permission, they can't enter the Super League. UEFA would have them back in a heartbeat along with all the other big teams that have pulled out. There's no doubt about that at all in my mind. There's a comment here that says, what did Harry Maguire say? Well, I don't know verbatim. I wasn't in the meeting, just to make that clear in case anybody thinks I was. But the reports that I've read this morning have said that he had a meeting with Ed Woodward on behalf of the players. The players, including Harry Maguire, were furious at the news. They're against the idea of going into the Super League. They were equally frustrated and disheartened at the fact that they felt Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was thrown under the bus. Ole had no knowledge that this was agreed to. All the managers know that these things have been spoken about over the last 10 years in football, but he had no idea whatsoever that the deal had been done. He was told around 30 minutes before kickoff against Burnley, and the players just felt really disheartened and sorry for Ole because he was thrown under the bus and sent out to deal with the media without having any information or any facts. The same thing happened to Jurgen Klopp yesterday and to Thomas Tuchel to a degree. They had no real information about any of this. The players know very little about this. Liverpool Football Club were meant to today have a staff meeting to address this situation. They have cancelled said meeting. Now, we don't know whether that's because they're trying to get their kind of corporate spin in order to get their PowerPoints looking right, or whether they're thinking about pulling out of it. I think the next 24 to 48 hours is going to be serious. We're going to be live straight after the Premier League meeting, and when the news starts to come out from that in relation to what the other 14 clubs decide they want to do. Remember, 14 clubs can vote and change rules, laws and inclusions within the Premier League. If all 14 clubs vote the Big Six out, there is a possibility the Big Six could leave the Premier League. Nearly 3,000 of you watching live right now. Please hit that like button for us. Very, very important that you do that. Let's get this past 1,000 likes. Really important that you support us here. Roman's Army here says, if it's true and Chelsea and City are having doubts, it's going to take both clubs to walk away together. Absolutely. And then what you've got to hope, I mean, this is the thing. What I would then hope to see is another one go and another one go, and it kind of fall apart. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Again, I wouldn't be sad that happened. But remember one thing here. Don't listen to the corporates. Don't listen to the sponsors. Don't listen to even the TV broadcasting companies. Those entities have already started. They have already started to pitch for business from the Super League if it goes ahead. They do not care about you in any way, shape or form. Rossa here says, people say the Big Six would not be banned. Sometimes you have to cut off the arm to save the rest of the body. Listen, I don't think they will do it. That's my gut feeling. Could they do it? Absolutely yes. Unequivocally, Manchester United, City, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool could all be kicked out of the Premier League if they are voted. It may not happen, but it is a distinct possibility. But I agree with what Anita came on the show and said yesterday, that it's very unlikely to happen. Very unlikely to happen. To reiterate, lots of new people have joined the stream. I will repeat myself again. Reports from Oliver Holt this morning suggest that at least 2 Premier League teams, many think this is Chelsea and Manchester City, are beginning to get cold feet. Cracks are beginning to appear within the hierarchy, and they may look to pull out of the Super League before it even begins. Of course, Florentino Perez has said that there is a binding contract and this can't happen. I don't believe that to be true. The reason I say that is because Chelsea and Man City cannot join without permission of the Premier League. There'll be a clause for that. There's no way they go into this without that clause being in place. Super chat here from Kaval says, as a Man United fan from India, I am disgusted by the European Super League thing. It will destroy Manchester United and all the other clubs' legacies. What will be the future of fan channels if some of you stop following clubs? It's a really good question. Red Devils here says, I feel like any reversal of decision will come down to player power, boycotts, etc., or rapid legislation to address this. I think you might find rapid legislation comes in anyway. I think you might find that people stand up against this regardless. Even if there's a U-turn, you still may see the government come in and enforce sort of 50+1 rules. You may still see legislation come in that stops this kind of Super League being reformed in the way that it's been presented to us. So a closed shop, an NBA style, you can't be relegated from league system. I think a lot of these things will happen regardless. There may at the end of this be so much reform and change that we do see football change. The hope is that the likes of UEFA and FIFA learn from this and change, and they do start to care more about you and I, the fans, more. That's what we've got to hope. Super chat here that I'm going to go to from Anime says, as a Chelsea fan, I am furious and blame this on the board, not the players or coaching staff. So all legal bodies need to be ruthless to all 12 owners. Mark here, Mark Goldbridge Dog says, Goldbridge Dog, aka Barca agenda, Barca agenda. What do you think of the possibility that these clubs will remain in the league and will be taxed instead? Well, they're taxed anyway. They're taxed anyway. They're not. I don't know if they're going to create some sort of new tax law that says if you're in the European Super League, you pay 70, 80% tax. Maybe they will. And if the government looks like they're going to, just levy them with a huge tax bill, again, they may look to pull out of it. They may look to change their minds. And that's why, at the moment, I disagree with Perez that this is binding, that this is 100% happening as it stands right now. I remember saying this last year when everyone said, the league's been suspended indefinitely. I was like, yeah, I've worked in the corporate world too long. I know what these statements mean. Terry, what does this mean to the players regarding contracts? Can a change in working conditions nullify a contract? I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I guarantee you players are having lawyers look at their contracts now. Is this new change? If they're not, let's just say that they can't compete in the Premier League, there'll be nothing in their contract that states a Super League competition they have to play in. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what the contracts state in enough detail. But if there are large parts of their contracts that are no longer valid because they're not in certain competitions anymore, bonuses, extensions, etc., appearance fees, there may be the legal precedent to pull away. I think it's called force majeure. I think is the legal term for it, but we'll see. If you're Marcus Rashford and you get a £3 million bonus if you finish inside the top 4 and qualify for the Champions League, but you're no longer in the Champions League, that's £3 million that he may not earn, and that's his money to earn. So yeah, there could be. Would people have a problem with a Super League if clubs could be relegated from it? Less so. If this was open and I think if this was open and competitive and not elitist, there would be a lot more support for it. If there was more money going into football and everybody from Accrington Stanley through to Arsenal had the ability to one day playing it, I think there'd be so much more support. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But listen, everyone, I've got to shoot off to a meeting. Thank you very, very much for tuning in this morning. Do me a big, big favour and smash that like button right now. Subscribe to the Football Terrace. Turn on the bell notification button as well. You can sign up to our Discord server. The link for that is in the comment section below. But until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you